Welcome to a new traveler recording here. In this one, I'm not going to necessarily do anything with my solo scout campaign and mapping out of the subsector here, but I want to focus on two new resources I've recently picked up. One from a recommendation of one of my followers or viewers, subscribers. Thanks for the tip. And the other one I just found, also a new traveler one. Both of these provide input into something that, for scouting, exploration, etc. Therefore, I want to evaluate them from the point of view of leveraging them for my campaign. And again, I'll just do my disclaimer here. Traveler, it is an RPG. Most people use it for characters, what happens to their characters, etc. That's kind of secondary for me. I'm actually uh, using all these systems as a simulation to put it through its paces to in this case, we're mapping out a subsector, potentially a whole sector. I've already mentioned, created some empires using pocket empires from before. So I'm really using it to build the whole environment in detail. And that's my focus, not so much what's going on with my characters, although that continues to be a theme as we go through this. So with that said, here's Rim Expeditions. Let me look at the copyright, 2023, so it is definitely new. Looking at the table of contents here, we can see a big part of the focus is the this I can't pronounce this Solomani Confederation, originally from Terra, and their expansion to Rimward. So it does give a bunch of information on that Rimward region, breaks it out. But they also include some good resources here for exploration or expeditions in general. I've referred to this in a previous video, but well, they talk about the Confederation exploration policy. They don't have a separate scout service. It's a subsystem of the military, which is interesting, but I'm kind of playing as the Imperium, so that doesn't necessarily apply. But they do have some sections here on the exploration process. New thing, I think, of universal research mechanic. Some thoughts on long duration Starship ops. And then another star system generation procedure here. And then planetary environments. They kind of what I saw in Zoser, where they quantified these are the different types of planets. I don't know if they do much with it. And then this is interesting. They've got a big table on find points of interest within a system. I've been using other systems to generate that kind of stuff, but definitely want to look at that. And then they talk about thoughts on aliens and populations, etc. And then they get into specifically the area of Rimward and different regions here. And here's something: extremely long-range expeditions. Rimward campaign, High Guard ships, I would imagine, for their the Salami. Why do I want to say Salami all the time? Solomani exploration ships and craft exploration vessels. Worth looking at too, but I'm mainly interested for these things. So I would jump to this, and like I said, I previously mentioned this, but here they, and I don't think this is unique to the Solomani Confederation Scouts. They talk about the general phases of an expedition here. Planning and prep, important. And I guess if I was doing this as a campaign, it would be, who's my patron? What kind of ship do I have? I was stocked up on supplies, etc. I'm not necessarily focusing on that. I'm just assuming this is an Imperial Scout service, and they've done all the logistics for me. And then we have the execution phase, and they give you different types of scout missions. We got a rapid advance, and that's perhaps in the case of the Imperial Scout Service mapping internal Imperial. They're constantly doing that. Standard advance, interesting one, kind of, you got both speed and gathering information. This is probably all they're going to do is jump in, get a system scan, refuel, and go to the next one. And then we got exploratory advance, and this is the one I kind of like for what my crew is doing here, and this is what I lean towards. find points of interest, potentially put that table through its paces, etc. What that probably looks like refueling and then investigating points of interest. But again, not a detailed exploration. And its rough average is maybe 5 days. And then you got a full-blown system exploration if the system warrants it, and that could take a while. So this is a nice little way to kind of understand what I'm doing. And then they talk about what it means to explore a system here. Common but no means universal approach. Here we got an exploratory, they say, is jump to the main world, explore for a few days, and then refuel, they say. I don't know if I like that one from a caution point of view. I would lean more towards the reverse order. Scan the system, then jump to the nearest refueling source. It may be the main world, or it could be a closer gas giant. Refuel, and then proceed to the main world. So allows you to leave the system as soon as possible. If something happens, you're already refueled. Either way, you close in on the system. In most cases, surface scanning and radar mapping, possibly backed up by probes. If you actually want to land, it must be carefully weighted, whether it makes sense on what you found. Okay? And that kind of makes sense. That kind of gives me a nice common sense guidelines on how to handle going forward. And then they go about detailed exploration, follow-up expeditions. And then they touch on contact. If you do find an intelligent species, got to make a call on whether you want to contact them or not. Exploitation, yeah. The decision to contact or not can then be simplified by evidence that the locals know about interstellar travel or have traveled into space or they haven't. Basically, if they don't know about interstellar travel, they don't have an idea that there's other civilizations. Maybe it's probably best to observe them at a distance and make a decision later. Feels almost like the Star Trek Prime Directive here. And then you can have follow-up here. Year-long expedition. Yeah, and they talk about that balance between how long you take for exploring versus speed of doing this. Like my crew here, they're not going to now, if you've seen them, I don't know if I've posted before the video I did already about the system and orbits and whatever. They could do a detailed exploration of all 15 planetary bodies, gas giants, and planets in the system, which would take a long time. Hence, you got to make that decision. I just want to kind of do the gas giant, get refueled, and then do a quick thing on the main world, see if there's anything of interest. If not, we'll proceed to the next system, which has a size 9. Wow, that's an interesting one. So, that kind of just tells you, don't dawdle. And then they introduced something called the Universal Research Mechanic. And they call it the Breakthrough Index. And I'm going to have to chew on this some more. And then they give you ways to roll against your travelers. And this can be used for more than just system exploration, planetary expedition. It could be used for anything that requires an investigation. Can be used to resolve all scientific and investigative efforts. Other those than require a specific action or item. Maybe you're a detective researching a crime. You could probably use that for this. But they do apply it as an example to the system exploration. Data collected from a distance. They're saying mainly from databases, etc. But in our case, we do have those remote sensors to at least basically get a feel for a system. Remote survey of star system, 2D days. Survey of a single world takes 4D hours. More detailed system survey, electronics check to pull this off. And then they give you the numbers for that. Survey of a planetary-sized object, 60 hours. Initial survey, 12D hours to survey a larger object, such as a gas giant or brown dwarf. Okay. And then again, here are the checks for doing that. So surveying a whole star system takes much longer, at least 3D days, um, which kind of makes sense. And again, you're going to do checks, and the effect helps you go faster or slower. Detail survey, um, major features, atmosphere, liquids, biological samples, again, 3D days. So I'm going to have to compare this to the Planetary Handbook, World Builder Handbook for timing here. And then they correlate it to the breakthrough index here. And then they talk about kind of tough stuff to find. It's a harder die roll. And then here's this breakthrough index. Feels somewhat like the survey index that was, I actually got that pulled up here. It was in the Deep Space Exploration Handbook. Yeah, here's a survey index. And that goes to 12. So I see how to harmonize those two. But this can apply to other stuff besides, there we go, scientific versus interstellar exploration and survey. First through, yeah, and this is probably where we're operating at right now for my current review survey scout here. Then they just go into some more stuff here. Then we talk about long duration Starship ops. Doesn't necessarily apply here. They're talking years. As a rule of thumb, exploration vessel not going to make port within the next 3 to 4 years, halts every 24 to 30 months for self-overhaul. In my case, my team has got like a 3-4 months limit, so I don't think I'll run into this. And this is more just ideas. This is nice. A hard-working ship might make 3 jumps in a month, or around 35 per year. And pretty much a jump drive is in general good for 100 and 150 jumps without serious trouble. So nice thumb rules there, whether you need to do an overhaul. And again, this is the extent of this section. Just gives you some ideas. And then here we go. We have a new, well, somewhat new star system generation. I think they make a remark. Well, let's see what they got here. The standard star system creation presented in core rulebook, well setted for, quickly making it to support a campaign. That's not what I'm doing. I'm actually wallowing in the details. That's why I'm using the World Builder Handbook. Instead, the following quick system can be used. The referee may need only do as much as they need to. So in a sense, they're saying this is a quick system here. First they say, and again, we apply it to the whole subsector, depending on where you are in the galaxy. What's the presence of a star system? Your average is 1 to 3, 50% chance. If you're in a sparse region, it's going to be a 33% chance. And then if you're on the Rift, 2 on 2D, you're not going to run into much. And if you're in a void, 3 on 3D. So, probably operating in these two. And we've seen this somewhat before. And they talk about brown dwarfs, unusual stars. I think it's more just you can put it in there if you want. Determine the presence of gas giants, pretty standard, 9 plus on 2D. And then it moves right to generating the main world. And the details here. They're saying if you're actually doing exploration, don't try and build the society part. I think that's what they mean. Advanced life is staggeringly unlikely to exist on such bodies unless derived from somewhere else. And then generate other bodies, and it's just a standard die roll, 2D minus 2. And 1D of these are gas giants. So this is a truncated system here. I don't think I'm going to use it. It's only 3 or 4 pages. And I think they do make the definite, if you wanted more detail, they refer you, ironically, to the Great Rift here. I've talked about this earlier before. They don't make a mention of the World Builder Handbook. Now, looking at the Great Rift, They talk about exploring. This is the Deep Space Exploration Handbook, part of the Great Rift, Book 4. They've got some interesting stuff here too. I've already referenced it. Again, we've got times here for distance sensor ops, detailed survey, preliminary survey, and then they use a survey index instead of that breakthrough index. Then they talk about phenomenons, black holes, neutron stars, Starship ops, mainly the 100 diameter limit, protostars, some good information. So then we get to a talk about different types of stars, anomalies. I probably already covered this. Some strange objects detected. So this is interesting. Look at this, detecting rogue bodies and anomalies in deep space. Okay, but let's get to their star system and what do they do? Again, it looks like Void is system is present on a roll of 18 plus on 3D. They go the other way here, 12 plus on 2D. On the other one, it was 2 and 3. And we do see sparse 5 or 6, average 4, 5, or 6. So somewhat the same, except for this. They switch the numbers here. And then you roll for the type of star system. That's nice. Special, trinary, binary, solar, binary, trinary, multiple. And then if you got a special system, you're here. So that's okay. Highly unusual bodies. I think there it is. Wow, to get to there, you got to get a 2 to get to here. Then you got to get a 2 again to get to here. Yeah, probably not going to run into that. And then star type is pretty straightforward. It's just a die roll. So this seems more complete. It's more streamlined than what I'm doing in the World Builder Handbook. Then we talk about planetary bodies. Generate for roll 2D on the planetary bodies table for main system and 2D minus 4 for any companions. And there you go. And then they give you the number to roll. So that's good. Nature of the body. Okay, you determine it here. Different than the world. This does seem streamlined. Unusual, anomalous, and then we've got orbital positions. Exact locations of bodies are always a matter for referee discretion. Well, World Builder's Handbook is really detailed on that. I mean, you figure out minimum allowable orbit, figure out where the habitable zone is, then you figure out the system spread, and then you start placing them with an eccentricity. This is straightforward here. Assign main world and other designations. If you don't already have a main world, pick something that makes sense, and then generate the worlds. And you could use, they reference again, Traveller Core Rulebook. Generate moons, and then we're in high guard. So I would say this is between, well, you got the core rules, which don't go too much detail. Then you got this, but then you've got the World Builder's Handbook. So I would just say this is intermediary. Okay. But I don't think the one here is detailed enough for what I'm doing, at least. For a campaign, it would be fine. Then they define planetary environments. I did see this on Zoser, and then there's different tables in Zozer's solo scout rules that tell you, depending on your environment, you can roll for what happens. These look basically like just definitions and ideas here, what to do with it. Atmospheres, and then we get to this. This is an interesting table, which I'm probably going to try here. You're in the system and you roll for a point of interest, I guess, for the system after this. Maybe I'll be rolling this next thing now that we've done the survey, and we'll see. It's 2 rolls. First one is 2d12. And then it mentions, this is this topic, and then this is the subtopic. Major anomalies, minors, highly unusual stellar, multistellar. I'd have to reroll on that, I guess. Unusual distribution, rogue bodies, phenomena, main world. Okay, Outsystem World and an encounter on a 12. So this may be something interesting to look at just to see if there's something more to do in the system. And then they do give a breakdown of what each one means. And then they mention aliens and populations, and guidelines on how to deal with them. You know, if it's the natives, and we kind of saw that earlier. You know, if it's natives, they don't know about star travel, jump, any other species, other aliens. Maybe don't contact them. Maybe they observe them or new starfarers. Does mention it gets you to break index 3. And then they move into the close rimward region. Now we're getting into the details on the Solomani rim details, and they do show this. They're exploring out this way. Okay, and they've got some of these already defined, and that's what the rest of the book does. It talks about that and high guard, etc. So as I look at this, need to spend a little more time here. I don't know if if I had to pick a star system generation process besides the World Builder's Handbook, I'm still back to this one, Great Rift Deep Space Exploration Handbook. If I choose, if I want to do it a little faster than the World Builder's Handbook. But coming back to this one, the breakthrough index is worth looking at some more. I don't think this process I'm going to use. It's not detailed enough for what I'm doing. And yeah, the breakthrough index, don't quite know, kind of understand these roles you can make. They've got these, so the big things would be the roll checks and the time to collect that info. And then this was helpful in just providing more framework and guidance on how to conduct the whole exploration as a whole. So there's some useful information here. What I'm going to still have to dive into more is this, to see what's of value here to apply and compare it. And I've got to do some comparisons to what's going on here with the Great Rift and the World Builders. So this is along with talking about the rimward side, rimward portion of the Solomani Confederation, does provide some more ideas on how to do, in my case, my scout campaign. So anyway, so that is let's pull this all the way up. That is the Rim Expeditions, specifically focused on the Solomani Confederation and how they do exploration. These rim sectors available to explore, high guard info, but like I said, what I'm looking at and evaluating is basically seeing what I can use and incorporate in my solo campaign that I'm doing for exploration over here. So anyway, that is Rim Expeditions. So if you're interested, look it up. I buy all my stuff on Drive-Thru RPG. Get the PDF versions, but you can also order directly from Mongoose and get the hard copy. So thanks for listening, and see you at the next one.